Hi, we're at Tandem Ciders with owner Dan Young and author Barbara Stark-Nemon. We're talking about Barbara's new book, which is called Hard Cider. Barbara, thanks for agreeing to talk with us, and could you tell us a little bit about the story?
Yes, so Hard Cider is a book about a woman of a certain age who decides that she wants to start a hard apple cider business on the Leelanau Peninsula. She has a complicated family. She has raised kids, she's had a career, and now she thinks it's her turn. A young woman shows up with a dark secret that threatens to derail everything that the heroine, Abby Rose, thinks she knows about her family and certainly about starting this business. And so the story is about how she resolves that.
Well, interesting. One of the reviews I read said that something along the lines of this book is a coming of age story for women of a certain age. So, when you think about coming of age stories, like I'm a teenager and now I'm going to be an adult, but talk about the coming of age themes in your book.
I think that if you live to a certain age, things happen in your life, things that are unexpected, unwelcome, and if you figure out what to do about that using resilience and a can-do and a sort of internal strength, that provides a lesson for people who may have devoted their lives to their families or to jobs that they needed to do to support their families. What this looks at is what happens when you have a dream and you have a passion and you get to the point in your life where you really do think it's your turn. And what does that look like, and what do you have a right to expect from yourself, from your family, and how do you surmount obstacles that get in your way? So it is a coming of age story for women of a certain age.
So another thing is that you actually researched this book to kind of present an authentic picture of what it's like to start a cidery. And I know you talked to a lot of the people who are in the industry up here, and one of the people was Dan. And can you talk a little bit about, kind of how you guys worked together, how you shared and learned?
Well, I fell in love with hard cider in the year that I lived in England. And I don't like English ale, sorry, all you English people out there. So I discovered cider, which was unknown to me. I had never had it before, hard cider. And so I'm also a master gardener. So I have some connections with many people in Dan's family. So when I decided to write this book and I decided to pursue my sort of unfulfilled fantasy to start a hard cider business, I thought, well, who's doing that? And I came and talked to Dan. It was kind of early on.
It was early on, yeah.
And Dan gave me the literally cook's tour of Tandem Ciders, and I loved what he was doing, and he was so helpful and cooperative. And he talked to me about local growers, of which there were very few. And I spoke with him. I spoke with Kilterman Orchards because they have a lot of antique apples. And then there's another mutual acquaintance of ours and yours, Andy's, who is actually growing cider apples, and he had just planted 5 acres. So I spoke. So Dan kind of really gave me direction, and of course, Nikki being
Nikki gives us all direction.
Right. She gives us all direction. So it was wonderful. It was a great start. And then I kind of took my research eastward and ended up in New Hampshire and talking to some of the premier cider makers on the East Coast and the Northeast to get a really good sense of what's involved. And basically came to Dan and said, if this woman's going to start this business, what does she have to think about? And he basically gave me the laundry list, so it was really great.
Nice. So Dan, you lived the story of starting a cidery up here. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what are a couple of the challenges and the rewards that that you've seen from starting a cidery?
Well, I mean, certainly the challenges at the time, there was a little bit, people really hadn't heard of hard cider yet. I think we were a little bit ahead of the curve on the hard cider craze that took off. So that was a little bit of the challenge of selling people on cider, especially in wine country. Trying to describe, saying, no, this is not from grapes, it's from apples. So that was one of the challenges. I think convincing growers to sell us some apples, even in the beginning. They typically up here for processing fruit, load up a big trailer full of apples and send it south, and for some guy to ask them for like one or two of their boxes to come off that truck, they weren't sure about what to do about that. Now we've got that connection. Now we have some really good, strong connections with those growers. So that was the challenge, I think, trying to convince them what we wanted to do with their apples. And the rewards are certainly, I think the best rewards have just been the people that we have met. We set up our tasting room to be kind of like one of those English pubs, where people connect, people from far away, because there's certainly a ton of visitors and tourist type people stopping by, but there's a lot of locals who will swing by and have a pint of cider, and that's been actually the best reward of it all. Is just that kind of cider community that's formed. I can go on about the cider community.
Yeah. Well, so Barbara, did that community around cider, did that make it into your book? I mean, is that a part of it? Does the industry form a character?
I would say that the book also is on the front end of that community, but I want to mention that that sense of community and that sense of people gathering, which is such an important part of Tandem. I mean, anywhere I go, people know about Dan and they know about Tandem Cider, and when I say, oh, that's my official cider for my book, everybody gets excited. So when I started writing this book, which was quite a while ago now, this craze that is now really in full bloom for hard cider was not happening, and Tandem was really on the front line of that. So it's kind of more of a front line issue, but community in the Northport area, in the Leelanau Peninsula area, was extremely important to the character in my book. So that's part of why she wants to be local and do this business in the area, because that sense of community and different businesses in the Northport area are part of the book. So.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time. You can find out all about Tandem Ciders at tandemciders.com. And Barbara, your website is?
It's barbarastarknemon.com. And yeah, hard cider is available wherever books are sold. So enjoy, everybody.
Well, excellent. So pick up a copy of Hard Cider for your Christmas gift giving, and definitely pick up some Tandem Cider for your holiday entertaining.
Yes, it's delicious.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.